take your coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee break with me.
Welcome to Coffee Break with Candace. We're so glad you're here. Our special guest today is, well, I'll just let her introduce herself. Tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Dr. Shola Ezeokoli. I am an internist certified in Nigeria, the UK, and the US, Illinois. And I am also a physician coach. I help doctors just like me defeat and prevent burnout, as well as create options for themselves outside of traditional medicine. And it varies from client to client what those options look like. Some people, it's a better work-life balance. For some people, it's, I need to start a business and I need your help with that. I'm also a certified business consultant, by the way. Maybe it's a business, maybe it's family life. I'm in general a coach for physicians, and I help them create the life that they really want to live.
Oh, that's exciting. So how did you get started on your journey to medicine and then to all these additional endeavors?
Okay, that's a bit of a long story. How much time do you have?
We have time.
So I was born in the UK and raised in Nigeria, and that was where I went to medical school. And, a lot of people don't know this about Nigeria, but your average Nigerian middle-class parent is a go-getter and wants all their children, at least when we grew up, to be you're either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. So, and I understand it's the same thing for Caribbean parents. My mother is from Guyana in the Caribbean, and my father's from Nigeria. So in that sense, I was hurting for certain. So I'm going to say that I was groomed for medicine, but fortunately, I also happen to like it. I guess there's a way of cultivating in your children a love for something. And so I grew up surrounded by medical textbooks. My mother's a nurse. I grew up surrounding my medical textbooks, hearing of the cases she saw in the clinic or in the hospital, and just becoming more and more interested in that. And biology was one of my, was a subject that I knew very well. And so I ended up becoming a doctor as, I'm going to say a good number. When I was a teenager, I mean, most of my friends and I wanted to be a doctor. So that was how I got into studying medicine. I studied medicine, graduated, and remember I said I was born in England, so I decided that that was where I wanted to live. So I went there, I lived, I worked there for a bit, did their exams, got certified, did the whole shebang, worked there for a bit. And then the love of my life, my then boyfriend, now husband of 15 years, 15, 16.
Wow.
Don't let him hear me.
That's so awesome. Oh my goodness. Okay, carry on.
Don't let him hear me. Sometimes I can't remember whether it's been 15 or 16 years.
Wow.
So so after we kind of were looking at, where are we going to live and what are we going to do in future, we decided that the US was a better option. So I packed up my little bags and I moved to the US and started life afresh, going to do internal medicine residency in Cook County Hospital in Chicago. Everybody knows Cook County Hospital, great place. I mean, a lot of learning, very busy hospital. And, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to be other things as well as a doctor. I don't want to use the word more because it denotes something more or less. I'll just say other things.
Sure.
Right from the age of 15, I knew I was going to be involved in self-help. I started reading self-help books, and I was very fascinated by the slant of, a lot of self-help books have this sort of strategy mixed with faith and belief. And I really liked that. And I was like, okay, this is good. The world I lived in was very concrete. So, we had our spiritual beliefs. I grew up as a Christian, but that sort of merging of the two was just very exciting to me. So as I went on through medical school, I used to write, not blogs. Back then we didn't have blogs. I almost said blogs. We used to write these articles and have them pinned up on boards for people to read. So I'd always written other things, non-medical things, as I was going through medical school. And after I graduated, I I didn't write for a long while. I went to England, was doing the whole medical thing. But then after I came here and became an attending physician, my dreams of being a writer started to resurface, and I wrote my first book.
So, okay, so that's a huge deal. I've had, some other writers on the show, and as I've said before, you're part of that 3% club. Only 3% of people that start a book ever finish it, and it goes out
Oh,
into the world. So that's a huge deal. So what about that part of your journey made you say, I'm going to write a book?
so I was in residency, in my first year of residency. Now, think about it like this. I came from England, where we started rounds at 9.
I don't even know what that's like, but okay.
Exactly. We started rounds at 9. You couldn't work for more than, was it 10 hours at a stretch for call if you were a junior? I never did overnight call.
Wow.
If the professor asked you something and you didn't know, you just respectfully said you didn't know and he told you the answer. I came from that very relaxed sort of way of learning of medicine to residency in one of the busiest hospitals in the US.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, I felt like I was dying. I felt like I was literally cast adrift at sea. And not because there was anything wrong with the residency program. It was just culture shock for me. And I didn't, at the time, you look back with hindsight, but at the time I didn't know that was what was happening. Here you get pimped on a regular basis. Everything goes in your evaluation. In England back then, unless you did something really egregious, and if you were respectful to the patients, your colleagues, the seniors, and you did what you were told, you got good evaluations and good recommendations. But here, oh my goodness, in the US, it's completely different.
It is. Oh no, it is. I mean, even though, yeah, totally. When you said that, that's why I had to laugh, because I just remember all those times where I did an overnight call. Then I had to do clinics the next day, and then you would get pimped on top of that. And so
Yep.
I don't know what that's like to start at 9. Like, that's so nice.
Exactly. So I suffered a huge culture shock. I also had a small baby at the time. I didn't have any family in Chicago. I was brand new to the States, brand new to Illinois, and I burnt out completely. I was very depressed. I would drive to work wishing a car would hit me.
Oh my goodness.
I was
Wow.
the only thing, I always say the only thing that kept me alive was the fact that I had a baby, or else I would have probably done something reckless.
Sure. Oh my gosh, this is so powerful. Okay.
I would have done something reckless, because I would be driving to work and I'm like, man, I wish a car would hit me and I would die. But then I would think, oh my God, I have a 7-month-old who, if I die, she will never know that she had a mother who loved her more than life itself. And that was one of the things that kept me going from day to day. Another thing that kept me going was my amazing program director. She just went all out. And I think looking back, I realized this is what she did. She kept sending medicine attendings to talk to me. So they would just stop me in the hallway and say, how are you? Is everything okay? Here's my cell phone number. Call me if you have any problems. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I realized that was helping me, because it felt like the people around me cared. So, and I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah, but this is amazing. This is such an amazing story.
Basically, my first book was my way of clawing myself out of burnout, out of depression, and reconnecting to my first love of writing. So, it won't be surprising to hear that it was a religious book. It's a faith-based book, talked about God a lot, talked about worshiping God, had little prayers at the end and all of that. And I actually got the idea from my pastor back then, who had all these little booklets he used to write. So I just looked at the books and realized, oh, I can write about I can write in this kind of way about this other type of topic. And I just, I did write the title of the book, if you don't mind.
I'd love that, actually. Thank you.
So for the faith-based people, it's called His Delight, 31 Days of Praise and Worship. So that was my first book. And at the time, I wasn't.
Why don't you leave it sitting out so we can see it and have that information?
All right. Okay. Honestly, when I was writing it, it wasn't really in book form. I was just trying to write my way out of something. And, as time went on, it started to gather up steam of its own. And after I became an attending, I self-published it as a book, of my first book, and just kind of took off from there. And that was the process of publishing this book. I have since gone on to publish 6 more.
Oh my goodness, 6 more?
Yes.
Okay, wow. So are they all faith-based, or do they have a different theme? Can you tell us more about the other 6 books?
I can tell you more about the others. And I'm going to, and be warned, I'm going to sound like someone without any direction, okay? I just love to write. So I would write whatever. I'm like, I've done one book, I can do another. So my second book was a book of poetry.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's called Shoetry, Poems by Shola, me, Shoetry. Then my third book, now I don't know where the others are, but my third book is a children's book called You Are the Best You, which was written.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. It was written to help kids, kids sometimes they feel, I wrote it for my kids. I just wrote this story, read it to them, and they were like, nice, read it again. I was like, okay, book.
That's awesome.
So, when kids get to this stage where they want blonde hair like somebody or straight hair like somebody else. And
yes.
I was like, okay, gather around, listen to this story. And I really just wrote it for my kids and for kids everywhere. Like, look, you're fine the way you are. You're beautiful, you're handsome just the way you are. And it follows the story of this elephant who was feeling some type of way because he wasn't this, he wasn't that like his other friends. And all his friends came out to reassure him that he was great and he was wonderful just the way he is or was. So I have 2 other books which I published with my husband. I think we're sold out of those. So I don't have any.
Oh, wow. So what kind of books were those? That's pretty special to have co-written with your husband.
So at one point in time, my husband and I used to see a lot of, we used to do this under the auspices of the church. We used to see a lot of people who were getting married. So we would counsel, we had a curriculum, we had classes for them. And, we just decided to put some of these thoughts into a book. So we did our first book. Then a couple of years later, we did a second one. One is titled Staying Married. The second one is called The Balanced Marriage.
I mean, that really is quite special that you've done this many books. There have been different themes. And then you and your husband have written together. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And my last baby, which is a book I wrote specifically for physicians. And that's the book that's sort of the most well-known, that people know the most. This is when, at the urging and insistence of my coaches, I started working with coaches in 2014. I became a coach in 2015. And my coaches are telling me, your fellow doctors need you. You have something for them. And I didn't listen. And so over time, I started to become, more confident in the fact that, yes, I do have something for my fellow doctors, specifically in the areas of burnout and transitions, being able to make those sensible transitions, being able to practice medicine without burning out, because it can be done. And, it's just been really, really fulfilling to be able to do stuff for my fellow physicians. So that was how I made that journey all around. And finally, here I am, talking about what I do for physicians. And, my doctor clients love me. So I'm on to a winner here.
Well, you have a lot of energy, so I'm sure, the knowledge plus the energy and positivity, I'm sure for them, it's just a win all the way around. Like, that's so incredible. And, we, so many of us, myself included, have experienced burnout. And I tell you, that's one of the most challenging experiences that I can recall in my career was when I was burned out. And it was early on in my career, which made it that much harder.
Yeah, yeah, and burnout is very real. And the solutions that I've noticed that the solutions proposed by previous generations um, may not work for us. Previous generations didn't suffer burnout the way that we do because they have had more autonomy. We tend to be more of employees and less of the decision makers, people at the table. So sometimes for that reason, we need new solutions to burnout.
Absolutely. And would you mind just sharing a few tips of how you approach burnout with your clients? Because even though I know you are geared towards working with other physicians, that's
Yes.
your client base, I still think burnout is a real thing for so many people. And sometimes just a few tips can, help someone go, oh, okay, I am burned out. I need a little bit of help.
Yeah, I could do that. So, a lot of people start from the premise that burnout is their fault. That is I would say, that's the worst thing you can do to yourself. Is you're already beaten down, and you say the beating down of yourself is your own fault. That's because a lot of doctors don't say it. So you'll be looking around, maybe all your colleagues are burnt out, but nobody's saying it. And now you feel like, okay, I'm burnt out. What's wrong with me? But burnout is actually a condition. And it's so weird that shortly after I wrote my book, WHO recognized burnout as a diagnosis. So it's a condition of chronic stress, emotional, physical, mental exhaustion. It's caused by excessive and prolonged stress. And people feel they're unable to meet demands. The first thing to realize is that it's not your fault. Okay. And if I think that if people can take away one thing from this, realize that burnout is not your fault. Because when you realize it's not your fault, you're able to take a step back and almost put your diagnosis hat on and say, okay, this is the problem. How do we solve it? As opposed to, oh my God, this is my fault. I don't have any resilience. I must work harder, which is the rhetoric that doctors tell themselves, or
Sure.
this is they're being fed. Not to put too fine a point on it, but a lot of organizations don't help. When they hear burnout, they're like, oh, go to a wellness retreat. That's not that. Wellness retreats are great. I love them, but that is not the answer to a perennial problem of chronic stress. And I did this whole white paper on burnout. In fact, it was actually approved for lawyers by the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on Professionalism.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And the Illinois bar. So they actually approved my program for teaching because lawyers deal with burnout too. So they actually approved the program, and I had to do a lot of research, and I did a whole white paper. Burnout is organizational factors play a part as well as personal factors. So we can't run away from that. Burnout is not your fault. Another thing I tell physicians is, please, whatever you do, don't feel guilty. Don't feel that you need more resilience. Being a doctor, you're already freaking resilient.
True.
Just the process of becoming a doctor is a weeding out process, which it shouldn't be, but let's leave that on one side.
Yeah, but it very much is. You're absolutely right.
So for you to become a doctor means that you're very resilient, and it doesn't mean you need more resilience. It does mean though that you have to kind of take let me see the problem, and let's propose a solution. Seeking support, you need your support system around you. And that's very, very important. A lot of doctors, again, because of shame, guilt, feeling it's their fault, and feeling that, oh, I just need more resilience, they don't share anything. They don't tell anybody, and they're crumbling inside. Seeking help from your support system, your therapist, your coach, preferably a coach who knows what it's like. A coach like me, let me not to put too fine a point on it, who really knows what it's like and who actually does this work. So it's not just that I woke up one day and decide, oh, I'm going to help physicians deal with burnout. I've actually studied on it. I've, my work speaks for itself, in short. Being able to dialogue with your organization, because now too, people are beginning to realize that this is a real thing. So the minute you start to have those symptoms of burnout, talking to the movers and shakers within whatever organization, talking to your partners and having the dialogue to say, look, if I'm burnt out, the organization is not going to do well, and don't feel you have to leave medicine if you burnt out. I didn't leave medicine when I burnt out. I do a whole bunch of different things now, but it's not because I burnt out that, I'm not practicing clinical medicine. It was just for me a transitional thing. And don't be afraid to leave a job that is unreasonable. That is, there are many jobs, okay? There's a physician shortage. Here's the truth. Physicians need to feel empowered. People still have this back in the day mentality of, oh, if I don't stay here for 3 or 4 years, people are going to look at my CV funny. It's not true. I've never seen that happen to doctors. We have more options than we think we do. So if you have to change jobs, then do it, do it unemotionally with the fact, like, look, this job is taking away my quality of life. There's got to be a better job out there. And usually there is.
Oh, that's so positive. Oh my goodness. And so necessary in a time where I imagine more and more people are experiencing burnout.
Yes, they are. Can I share about my little burnout challenge that I'm doing? I'm doing like a little challenge for physicians in my physician group. So,
of course, that'd be great.
If the doctors in your audience want to join my group, you can find me on Facebook, Physician Heal Yourself with Dr. Shola, which is the title of my 7th book. Hey!
Wow.
Physician Heal Yourself. And, we're doing that all week long. And obviously, if people join the group, the videos will be there for them to watch as replays.
So tell us a little more about the Burnout Challenge. What does that entail?
Okay, so the Burnout Challenge is a 5-day challenge that's going on. Today is actually the 2nd day. And with each day, we go through ways of dealing with burnout. So day 1, I talked about myths around burnout, right? What people believe. And we have journaling prompts. I've got a workbook where people can have journaling prompts to sort of, as it were, write their way out of these myths that we've come to believe that disempower us as doctors. Day 2 talks about sources of burnout, because not all burnout is from the job. Day 3 talks about creating a new identity for yourself. A lot of doctors have this martyr or savior identity. Some of them have an employee identity. That's not good enough. So in order for you to effectively deal with burnout, you have to have a CEO identity or mentality. Then, so journaling through some of those things. Day 4, we talk about allies and support systems. And I have some relationship assessment tools so that you can see who is really in your life and can help you. Talking about types of relationships there are, and being able to assign appropriately and unemotionally the different relationships in your life. Because if you're going to count on someone for support, and then you go through this relationship assessment tool and you're like, nah, this is not the person I need to count on, then you know, right? Then you know.
True.
You're not going to pick up the phone and call this person in the night when you're feeling some type of way, because they're not going to answer. And then last but not the least, on day 5, we talk about new options and a new life. Because here's the thing, William Osler said this. He said, the young doctor should look about for an avocation that takes him away from patients, pills, and potions. And that is so true today. What is your thing that takes you away from patients, pills, and potions? Exploring that, in a way that, what are your passions? And then because eventually your passions can start to make you money. So then maybe you can go part-time. So creating new options is always on the list of things to do to defeat and prevent burnout.
Wow, that sounds terrific. Oh my goodness. How are you able to do all of this, run your business, help other physicians, be a physician yourself, and balance family with that?
Okay, so I am very, very ruthless when it comes to time management. One day somebody said to me, wow, you live a regimented life. I said, thank you. Every minute in the day is budgeted for.
So now we're going to switch topics a little bit, and we're going to do my segment called Who Said That?
Uh-oh, okay.
And yes. And so what I will do is give you a quote, and if you need it, I'll give you a clue and you get one guess.
Okay.
And if you guess correctly, I will donate a modest amount to the charity of your choice.
Oh, okay.
And so what is your charity?
My charity would be City Church Chicago. Right now during COVID, we have a program where, because a lot of people have lost their jobs and are living from hand to mouth, every Wednesday we distribute thousands of packages of perishable food items so that they can go and they can at least have a meal for a few days. And we've been operating that since the pandemic started, and I want to be a part of that effort.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, great. So here is the quote. It actually is one of my favorites.
Oh.
So sometimes I know, right? So sometimes I do these quotes and they're just quotes I found that I love. But this one is actually one that I knew who the person was. And so this quote is, "You've got to learn to leave the table when love is no longer being served."
I think I know this one, but man, I have just one guess.
Yes. Do you want me to give you the clue?
Yes, give me the clue.
Okay. So this person is, or she was, an American singer, songwriter, musician, arranger, and civil rights activist. Yes. Her music spanned a broad range of musical styles, but I think she's, most well known for jazz, but she's done blues, folk, R&B, gospel, and pop.
Nina Simone.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah!
I'm so You are hilarious. That is so great. So I will donate to your organization and happily do so. I think that's great what you all are doing and helping during the pandemic with families. So that's amazing. But thank you for getting that quote, because I love that quote from Nina Simone.
You was an amazing woman. Be my husband and I'll be your wife. That's one of my favorite songs of hers that she sang.
Oh, that's awesome. So you sing as well?
No, not anymore. I sang in choir as a child, but not anymore. I haven't sang.
That was some nice singing just now. So I'm impressed.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. And any final words before we wrap up?
In the words of Nina Simone, you should have the bravery to leave the table when love and respect are no longer being served. And that's why, as not just a doctor, as a person, a woman, you have to have options of what to do in life if something suddenly becomes some type of way where you're like, oh my goodness, I have to get out of this situation. So I think that quote from her was a really apt one.
Thank you. I agree. And so what I would say is that congratulations on everything you're doing. But thank you so much for being on Coffee Break with Candace, and come back anytime.
Thank you very much. You won't be able to get rid of me.
I love it.
Come and take your coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee break with me.